think if you look at the 49ers team at their big positions, McCaffrey, I mean, he's who he is. Is he important? Yeah, he's important, but you know what you're getting out of McCaffrey.
Best in the game right now is the position.
Right. You know what you're going to get out of Ayuk for the most part. But the one player, to me, who has the most room for growth and improvement is Brock Purdy. That's why I think Brock Purdy, to me, is the most important player on the team. Because he's the guy who I think can get better simply because he doesn't have a ton of experience. He is young, and the other guys, you all kind of, you know what you're going to get from him. Fred Warner, Bosa, Bosa needs a good year. He needs to back up that 10.5 sack last year with maybe twice as many, but I still think it's Brock Purdy. I think he has the most room for growth, and I think if he elevates his game to the next level, then I think this team can obviously win a Super Bowl.
I'll say this to that, man, because I know how you feel. What if he's reached his ceiling, and Brock has been so phenomenal? He's proven it's good enough already, Steiny. So
I would argue he hasn't. Because he hasn't broken through. And I know he's only had 2 years.
When we say can't we, because Kyle's lost the Super Bowl, the Niners have lost the NFC Championship when Jimmy was here. But why, when we talk about Brock, he hasn't broken through, when in reality they haven't, or Kyle hasn't broken through with two different iterations of the Niners?
Well, what if I just said simply that in the 2 Super Bowl losses and in the 2 NFC Championship losses, their quarterback play wasn't good enough? Their quarterback play needed to be better in those monster games in the last 4 or 5 years.
But they were good enough to get you a 10-point lead.
Right, but you couldn't finish because
now their
for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, but what about the defense? Bosa last year in the Super Bowl crashing down on 4th down twice.
Do you think that it's acceptable for a team to score 22 points in 5 quarters of football and think you're going to win the Super Bowl against a Patrick Mahomes Chiefs team? To me, the 49ers scored 22 points in 5 quarters. I mean, their offense has to be better, and to me it starts with Brock Purdy. 888-957-9570 is the number. And, you brought something up just now. I want to ask 49er fans about it is, well, what if Brock Purdy has reached this ceiling? And I guess my question back to you, Goo, would be, why would you think a quarterback who's entering his 3rd season wouldn't continue to improve?
Now, I got to be careful here. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying he set the bar so high that he may have got to it this quickly. And I believe, from everything that I've watched, partner, what he is now is good enough. I don't blame him for that loss.
Okay, let me be literal here, though.
And he can.
You can't, on the one hand, kind of rip the Niners for not getting it done, but then also say Purdy was good enough. Like, he wasn't, because they didn't win it.
Yeah, but Steiny, I said to you, he wasn't the problem. Many of days.
What was the problem? What was the problem?
The O-line blocking, missing protection, fumbles, decisions in overtime to take the rock when maybe you should have punted. I told you, and you can back me up, many of day, Brock Purdy actually played better than I thought for that stage. And to be in that position with a 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 4 with a 1st down before overtime can pretty much bleed to clock. Like, I thought Brock Purdy, again, not MVP, Steiny, but Brock Purdy he showed me something. So I guess I'm just not saying, it's not like Jimmy and the throw to Emmanuel Sanders where Jimmy cost you that. The good ones would have made that. Purdy didn't have that. Now, was he perfect? No.
Exactly. He wasn't.
Did he overthrow Debo or Ayuk maybe a time here or there? Yeah, but for the most part, I thought he came out of that game with, man, I was on this stage, on this furnace, and I was pretty much myself. not perfect. So, Steiny, he might have 5 more levels to get to. I just guess I'm stuck on, man, his level, if this is a level 7, it was damn near good enough had everybody around him did their job.
Well, I don't know what's so hard to understand about, I'm not saying you don't understand it, but what was the play? Was it McDuffie who came in? Well, Brock Purdy's quarterback 20 games. He didn't pick it up.
And you could be totally right.
Maybe he picks it up this year.
You could totally be right.
Like, that's, to me, the play, a play that maybe he can get better at.
How do you think Kyle would answer that, or Andy Reid, if they saw that play, whose responsibility that is? You know what I mean? Like, would a more seasoned Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers sniff that out, or Mahomes? I don't know.
Well, again, like, you're talking about 3 of the greatest quarterbacks right now when you say that, and maybe Brock Purdy will be a great quarterback at some point, but can we really expect Brock Purdy to make that play now
I hear you.
in his career? And that's kind of what I'm getting at, and what I think is one of my themes is that if you really look at it, they weren't good enough last year against the Chiefs. Like, Brock Purdy, maybe he was a little too inexperienced. I know he didn't make mistakes, but he also didn't make a bunch of big plays either. And Patrick Mahomes, he was just okay for Patrick Mahomes. But when the chips were down, he made all the plays he needed to make. And maybe Brock Purdy, with experience, will just play a little better if he gets there again, and that could be the difference.
Let me ask you this, and I feel you on that. So we just had Matt Barrows on from The Athletic, and he was great. But Steiny, he said something, and he had a fastball on it, some mustard on it. In his opinion, this is by far the best roster in the game, and it's been that way. So doesn't pressure just come with that, regardless of any sport? When you look at a roster, and I'm trying to think of some of the greatest teams that hadn't won, where you're like, man, that was just what happened. I think of the OKC Thunder early on, Russ and Ibaka and the rest of the gang. But I guess that's why when I come in here and say they should have one, Steiny, it starts with the core of what they built, John and Kyle. Everybody can see they got more talent than everybody else.
I don't necessarily, I don't buy that.
So that's why when you said Mahomes this morning, and I'm not saying I love me some Mahomes, Steph Curry, but Steiny, Mahomes wasn't on defense for the Chiefs. I know Chris Jones was, but you know what I mean? Like, the Niners could have had their way had they executed. And I don't know why they didn't. But it started against Green Bay. It started against Detroit at home. So, I'm sitting here saying, and a lot of people are comfortable saying, well, the Niners will be right back. And maybe some are like, I don't know. But I want to find out at the core. Maybe I won't, Steiny. Maybe the summit will bring it to our attention. But what happened to the Niners in the playoffs?
They didn't play well against great teams last year. The teams they thought were really good weren't as good as they thought they were going to be, Dallas and Philly. So maybe when they beat those 2 teams, they thought that they were beating the cream of the crop in the NFC, but they weren't. They weren't.
We might be onto something there.
Will's in Marin. Hey, Will, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys, thanks for taking my call. I don't really think that it was Brock Purdy's play, rather if he made massive plays or anything. Steve Spagnuolo even said that he threw the kitchen sink at Brock Purdy during the Super Bowl and said that he was extremely impressed about how he didn't flinch and actually answered the call and actually stayed cool in the pocket. There was multiple times where he was trying to make him flustered, and he said it was very frustrating. He couldn't. Another thing is, I get it. It might have been a lower performance for Patrick Mahomes, however, but I just feel the reason why they lost the Super Bowl is they gave him too much time. When you give a guy who is elite in any sport too much time or a second chance or a hope, he's probably going to capitalize because, they can only mess up or be bad for so long. And another thing about the playoffs, Donnie, I get it. Maybe they didn't play against great teams, but let's be honest. Sports like the back of your hand. When the playoffs happen, anything can happen because those are the hottest teams. Even a regular season team that might have been, if they make it to the playoffs, sometimes those guys are the scariest. They have nothing to lose. So I'm not really surprised that there weren't barn burners or big blowouts in the playoffs. Those are the best teams at the time, and those are the best teams going for one goal. So I think there's a lot to load into it. I'm not worried about Brock Purdy. Am I saying that the Niners are just going to, run the table and dominate? No, they're going to have their bumps and bruises. It's professional sports. They're going to have their ups and downs. They're going to get smacked in the mouth at times, and we're going to question it. But to say that they're not going to be in the mix and be back, I think that would be false too. I think the Niners are going to have a very successful season. They don't win the Super Bowl. Yeah, it could be the end of it for them in their window. But I think that they're going to be right back in the mix, and people are going to be taking them very seriously. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere.
I don't either.
The 49ers. Purdy was. You remember? Anybody remember his numbers for the Super Bowl?
I'm gonna say 22 for 35, 248 yards, no touchdowns, no picks.
23 for 38,
Damn.
255, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Now I'm going to say it.
Now, I thought Jennings did
That's
it.
in
They had more.
5 quarters, not
right,
4.
Right. Against a stout Kansas City D.
Oh, well, I'm just saying. Like,
What
I'm
were
not
Mahomes'
saying Brock,
numbers? Can you give me Mahomes' numbers?
34 for 46, 333, 2 and 1.
Yeah. A little more. Yeah, wow, all right.
I mean, I know this is going to sound logical, but I'd rather have 2 touchdowns and 1 pick than 1 touchdown and no picks.
Right.
That's just me. But what I'm getting at is, I'm not saying Brock Purdy lost the 49ers a Super Bowl or cost them the Super Bowl. I'm just saying he can be better. I think he can be a significant
and I don't want to sit here
better.
and say he can't be or he shouldn't be or you shouldn't want him to be. I was just simply pointing out last year he was good enough for this team to win that game. And I'm throwing everything in there, jambalaya. It's not just offense, it's everything, Steiny. Coaching, the overtime, shouldn't have went to overtime, the O-line. I mean, every time the Chiefs were facing defensively, they give up a first down, you might be in trouble. They batted the ball down. They came up with a play. And Bosa, 4th and 1, 4th and 2. Mahomes, think about it. He kept the ball and Bosa crashed down. That's
right.
What if you would have stayed home and that would have been the game-winning tackle or stop?
You've mentioned 8 plays about, and it's like, that's why you don't win the Super Bowl. Because there were 8 plays that they didn't make. And if they made a few of them, they would have won the game. When the chips were down, the Chiefs had an advantage with Patrick Mahomes. They just did. And the 49ers didn't give themselves enough margin for error early in that game, and it came back and bit them. I mean, like, I don't even look at it as though, the 49ers blew a 10-point lead. I do not look at it like that. I look at it as the 49ers held the Chiefs to 19 points in 4 quarters, and the 49ers, couldn't score 20 in the 4 quarters of football.
And had ample opportunity to do so.
Exactly.
Interception after halftime.
So you can show me all the numbers you want, but Brock Purdy was only able to help his team to 19 points in 4 quarters against the Chiefs. You've got to score more than that to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
And now we're sitting here, if you're into this, hey, when's Kyle ever going to get the monkey off his back? And Evan kind of slowed my roll or told me to slow my roll this morning without, I don't know if he realized it, like just assuming you're going to get to the Super Bowl, but we're in the midst of a dynasty. So if, Kyle's ever going to get one, Steiny, it's not like, they're trying to be the first team to three-peat. So the Kansas City Chiefs are. You kind of just hope the Niners or Kyle have not blown his best chance to win one.
From the 510 on the Xfinity Mobile text line, Steiny, why can't I say the difference was Reid versus Shanahan? You can. We'll just have a difference of opinion there. But you can say that. And you know what? I would say, I would say Andy Reid. Here's what I would say. Patrick Mahomes to Brock Purdy is Andy Reid to Kyle Shanahan. Just is.
But
just is. He's got 3 Super Bowls.
But what if we
Andy Reid?
Yeah, that was Steiny. What if we did Andy in Philly?
It doesn't matter.
Kyle would win that. Well, no, he wouldn't have one.
Exactly.
Andy lost the Super Bowl in Philly.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is Like what he did, you got to take the whole.
Because Matt pointed that out. Matt Barrows pointed out that his record was worse than Kyle's because they had went to the Super Bowl and multiple NFC championship games in Philly and didn't get it done.
Let's go.
Now he has 3.
Exactly.
Wow. That's
Exactly.
crazy, Steiny. One of our biggest fights on air was over Andy Reid.
And yet you're going to continue to go to the well with Kyle Shanahan.
No, what I don't want to have happen or repeat is Kyle gets it somewhere else.
Well, but if he gets it somewhere else, he gets it somewhere else.
There was some news yesterday that a lot of people were offended by or thought was just slop up on the wall about if Kyle's on the hot seat or not. My point with that is, let's just take Andy and Philly. All that success, what would ever make him lose his job? But it happened.
Well, they didn't have 2 good years at the end. I think they lost early in the playoffs one year, and then the next year they weren't very good.
Yeah, but my point is, with that resume of winning, you think you could survive 2 lean years. I think people got tired of the same old song of getting close, no cigar.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah.
So I hope Kyle gets it done here and is not Andy Reid 2.0.
So we find out whether they're gutsy enough to fire him. You know what? That's the other thing. Yeah, okay. Kyle Shanahan this, Kyle Shanahan that. Kyle Shanahan this, Kyle Shanahan this, that, the other thing.
You think people are blaming him?
I dare you to fire him. I dare you to fire Kyle Shanahan.
I wouldn't.
Jimmy's in Martinez. Hey, Jimmy, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. Just killing it as usual, but Steiny, come on, man.
What?
Shanahan is the most successful coach outside of Reid, who Reid didn't come close to what this guy's done here when he was in Philly. Now he looks like Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. Getting back to the game, though, which I have not been able to – I can't bring – 5 times I've tried to watch it, and I haven't even started it. I still have not seen it. I can't. Because if you think about it, my opinion is both of our offense and defensive lines were compromised. They just were banged up. Armstead was banged up. Feliciano, the offensive line was not 100%, and we still went to overtime, and we still should have won. But if you think about it, at the end of the season, going into the playoffs, we got through Green Bay somehow. Somehow we get to Detroit, and then the Super Bowl starts, and that's the best the Niners looked, and then McCaffrey fumbled the ball. Now, we got the ball back. We went ahead, but I felt like a juggernaut was about to plaster Kansas City at that point. That was the Niners in full tilt, kick your ass mode. And I love McCaffrey, and I know he probably thinks about it every night when he's falling asleep. I mean, he's like the baddest ass little dude on the planet. But man, I swear that just froze my heart when he fumbled that ball, and they did come back from it, and they still should have won.
Yep.
I think it was injuries on the line, man. That's what I think.
Hey, Jimmy. Jimmy. Hold on. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, no, I think you might have misunderstood. I think Shanahan's a great coach. And I think the people that say he can't get it done or he gets, he takes the choke, that I can't stand that. I think, and what I said is, you don't think he's a good coach? Go ahead. I dare you to fire him. Go ahead. You think I dare you to fire Kyle Shanahan? I mean,
he'd have 15 job offers by tonight at 5:00.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not happening. Him and Lynch, these guys, they're quality people. The whole team, it's a team you can be proud of. I mean, Ricky Pearsall, my God, talk about dodging a bullet. I mean, literally, I got chills right now, and I've been in a lot of stuff, real bad stuff in my life, real bad, and I can relate to that. And the idea that kid is going to be able to play and he's walking around and his family isn't in mourning right now, man.
You're right.
You got to enjoy every day, everybody.
Yep.
You guys are killing it, you guys. Ooh, Steiny, love you guys.
Good stuff,
thanks, Jimmy.
Man.
Appreciate it, my man.
I don't want to turn anybody off, Steiny, but God is good. And the Ricky Pearsall situation.
Yeah, he's okay.
I told Evan in the green room, I felt so bad. I'm older than Evan. We can tell. And I say, Ricky could have been paralyzed.
Yeah.
Evan goes, he could have died. And I just gave him a bro dap, like, thank you for hammering that home. But he's like, Steiny, man, the luck and the goodwill that was shown to him.
Was Andy Reid ever going to win a Super Bowl in Philly?
Yeah, why would you? He lost to Tampa Bay like 2-3 times. Why wouldn't you think he wouldn't?
Because Mahomes was never going to be an Eagle.
Oh, wow.
I don't know the answer to the question.
Like Philly's fan base don't play. I think they're more hardcore than out here. So, hey, he won. He got us to the Super Bowl. But, I think they get tired of that, Steiny. And they did. I don't, you said the last 2 years were bad. But, man,